Good morning, everyone. My name is James Lyne. I'm the Director of Technology Strategy at Sophos. If you were wondering where all of our marketing budget went last year, it's fitting that semi-professional shirt and jacket onto my profile picture. If you look really, really closely, you can see the blur lines where they've used Photoshop. I actually personally prefer this picture, which I think is far more fitting of both Stereotypes and me, because I'm a geek. I love playing with malware. I love ripping apart the latest kind of cybercrime events and understanding exactly what the bad guys are up to. And today, I'm going to do some live demonstrations of some malware. I'm going to show you what the bad guys are up to in terms of stealing data, how they're hacking social media sites, and the like. So I'm going to throw caution into the wind, and hopefully nothing goes wrong. Quick health and safety warning, I guess. I have a tendency to rant and flail my arms quite wildly, sometimes talk about Britney Spears nude and naked sideways and other such topics, and get distracted if a squirrel runs past. If that happens at any moment in time, you have no idea what I'm talking about and you think I've lost it, please feel free to raise your hand or throw something, ideally not sharp scissors or coffee. Actually, I made this offer once in Oman. It was brilliant. The guy sat at the back of the room, took his sandal off, and threw it to the front of the room and said, "I have a question about DLP." It's one of the more interesting ways I've been asked a question in my career in IT security, but I'm sure we can top it today. So we live in an interesting world, don't we? We've already talked about some of the major technology changes that are occurring. We've talked about how we're accessing information from a wider array of different sources. We've touched on this notion of the mass of different social media services. And of course, most of us will be familiar with the ever-present push to use work and play devices alongside each other to get this into one convenient device that the user can use. At the same time, we've got a massive change in the nature of the threat that we have to deal with. And I've got this set of slides I like to use that describes the evolution of malware over all time. 26 years of it. And I've separated it out into 3 individual waves of malicious code. I'm going to mostly focus on the third one and what the bad guys are doing today. But for context, I think it's important to understand where we've come from. The first wave of malicious code, my favorite virus of all time. You're in a unique club when you have a favorite virus, by the way. Also, terrible pickup line in a bar. Really doesn't work well. Actually, technically, it's only slightly worse than my total worst pickup line, which is, "Do you know that I own the second lowest IP address on the internet?" Fear the woman that works on. Anyway, the first wave of malicious code, my favorite virus. You would double-click on this email attachment, and this big green worm would appear on your screen, and it would start eating all of your desktop icons before doing a poo in the bottom left-hand corner. It was amazing. Then there was the time that we annoyed a virus writer so much that they took a photo of our head of PR at the time, Graham Cluley, and when you were infected with this virus, his face would appear on the screen. And you had to throw coconuts at him using your mouse cursor to unlock your computer. Malware was basically freaking awesome. Right? It was cool. Pranking was the order of the day. And then we started to move into something that we're all going to recognize a great deal more. We started to see Britney Spears nude and naked sideways.exe. By the way, I have absolutely no idea how you can be nude and naked at the same time. I always thought they were the same thing, but there you go. And perhaps this gentleman here would receive the Britney Spears nude and naked sideways email, and so would begin the battle of InfoSec. Your finger would slowly suspend into the air like this. And you know that you shouldn't click on that link because the policy dictates that you shouldn't. But you start to quiver with excitement. Maybe sweat a little bit, salivate possibly a little bit, and eventually you give in to the temptation and click the link, at which point you're presented with a picture of some kittens, which is a disappointment or not. And then one of these people around here comes along with a cricket bat, hits you across the back of the head, says, "That's bad, you shouldn't do that again, information security." We started to see the Nigerian or Brazilian banking scams offering you $63 million because they like your face. It's wonderful, by the way. Perhaps, you sir, you look like a Rolex-wearing gentleman. Rolex, it's got 2 L's in it. $5 online, right? eBay. So we're familiar with all of these scams. We've all come across them. This is the second wave of malicious code. And of course, those techniques have continued, but what's changed is the bad guys have started to work together. They've started to coordinate. And yes, that's a bed of money. It's amazing, isn't it? Best picture on the internet. Probably not the best bed, though. Just imagine the paper cuts. It'd be horrible. Products and services, an illicit economy with research, innovation, and development is the challenge of the day. And the impact has been profound. We now see 150,000 individual new pieces of malicious code every single day. A 60% increase since December last year. Huge, huge volumes of malware designed to steal data. A massive increase over years previous. But it's not just the quantity that's increased, it's the quality too. This astonishes me. This is amazing. A crime pack. This is a toolkit designed by the bad guys for the bad guys. It's a toolkit that can be purchased online. Bad guys go on, and it's a cloud-based service. By the way, audience participation here, because I know it's early in the morning, you've only had one coffee. Whenever I say cloud, there is an expectation in the IT industry from marketing people of what you will do, okay? So whenever I say cloud, I need you all to go, ooh. Okay, so we're just going to have a practice, all right? You ready? Cloud. Oh, that's a beautiful noise. It's good singing voices. I love it. Okay. All right. By the way, also, live malware demonstrations can go quite wrong. If they do, I will distract you by singing the Canadian national anthem, which I don't know the words to, and I'm not Canadian, but that's a detail. If it works, then you need to go, ah. Okay? So we can practice that as well. A little bit louder than the ooh, though, okay? Excellent. So be ready for whenever that happens. So this is a cloud-based service. Oh, yes, no, see, that's the small portion of the audience that is awake. Okay? That's the small portion. Who was that? That was you, wasn't it? Can I hug you? I'll just shake your hand instead. Thank you very much for paying attention during my presentation. There's always one. The rest of you could learn something from this woman. You would never click on Britney Spears nude and naked sideways, would you? No, exactly. So this is a cloud-based service. Yes, and there's at least 4 of you now. That's good. We're going up in the world. That's good. Okay. Oh, dear. So, and this service enables the bad guys to log in and, with a few simple clicks, create a new piece of malicious code to target a particular vulnerability, to target a particular system, and steal some particular data. It's really, really easy. We've also seen some diversification in what the bad guys are targeting. You see, there are lots of kind of inassumptions in IT security. For example, have we got any Mac users here? Mac users? Yes? No? I was going to say, you look like a Mac user. But any other Mac users? No? Yes. You have the standard makeup of the Mac user. Sir, do you drink lattes? You don't? Really? Have you got a MacBook Air? Little macchiato espresso thing? No? Little smaller latte? Okay. Wear a mock turtleneck ever? Chinos? No? Never? Okay. So I was doing this conference once, and I love to ask these questions because the stereotypes in IT are brilliant. And there was this gentleman who was in Singapore, actually, struggled to the front of the stage and kind of saw past the lights. So this guy stood up, MacBook in one hand, latte in the other, mock turtleneck chinos, beautiful. But what was really, really wonderful was the guy sitting just to his left, who has now become legend amongst my presentations. This guy had a huge beard down to here. We're talking, well, it would be perfectly normal if he was carrying an axe. Okay, you have an image in your head? Yes. So I said to him, FreeBSD Unix version 4.71. And he just went, yes. Amazing stereotypes. Has anyone here got leather patches on their... No novel NetWare users here then. Okay. Worth a go. Anyway, so I warned you I'd get distracted. So there is this expectation amongst lots of the Mac using community, for example, like myself, that there aren't any viruses for the Mac. Can't happen, not possible. That's a PC issue. But we are now starting to see a reasonable amount of malware targeting these platforms. And these assumptions make an ass out of you and me. I saw an interesting campaign in 2010 where the bad guys were operating a franchise model for infections. So they would give out toolkits, and a set of other cybercriminals would go and infect computers, and then go back to the original gang and pay them. So they get kind of 20 cents for a PC. What was really fascinating was they were getting over double for an infection of a Mac user. And you've got to assume that's down to perhaps being affluent, but also think of the standard profile of Mac users in many organizations. We've got our executives, people working on creative topics with lots of high-profile visibility to our customers, holding these devices. Lots and lots of sensitive, worthwhile data, and a user population that still believes there isn't malware for these platforms. But it's not all about viruses. Sometimes it can be more simple social engineering, use of shock topics. This has been one of the really popular campaigns on Facebook over the last few weeks. Lots and lots of these around. And it is astonishing still what people will click on. This is my favorite piece of social engineering on a social media site ever. And I love it because it's completely ridiculous. Okay, so let me talk you through this. Does anyone here drink Starbucks? Yes, it's brown water, isn't it? Yes. Okay, so imagine it was for real coffee. Okay, there are other variations of this, like Tim Hortons, which I'm led to believe is some form of even browner water on the other side of the pond. So the idea here is that you join this web page and you get a free $25 gift card for Starbucks, which sounds great. Because, if we take all that kind of brown water and boil it down, we could make one latte for our Mac using friend here so he can turn his Mac on in the morning. Seriously, you've got to try them. They're great. Now, in the real world, we have developed a code as to whether we trust people or not. When we meet them, there's immediately this flash in our minds as to whether they're trustworthy. So, for example, let's see. Okay. You, sir, imagine this. You're going to buy a second-hand car. I'm not saying you would, just imagine that you are. And you go into the second-hand car salesman's shop, and the gentleman stands up, and he's got one of those skinny ties on, like a really thin purple skinny tie with pink polka dots. It's an interesting tie, okay? Not a normal one. Big jacket, does this a lot, okay? Might hold some money and do this as well. Okay? Slicked back hair. And then he does the following. He comes up to you and he says, I'll be honest with you. Immediately, what flashes through your head, I love the way you kind of stiffened uncomfortably as I said those words as well. That was brilliant. Immediately we go, he's about to lie to my face. This is not going to go well for me. But the same thing doesn't happen in the digital world. We don't register that same warning sign. Thousands of people signed up to this page. The very first sentence on this webpage, this is not a scam. If someone says this is not a scam, what do you think it might be? Might be a scam? Just maybe? Yeah? But thousands of people joined this website. Well, let's look at the instructions they followed. It's even more staggering. So firstly, we get to join the web page, we get to share this offer, and we get to invite our friends, which is excellent because we can take all of that coffee and boil it down and make 2 lattes, and you can get a Mac using friend. It'll be great. 4, erase everything in your address bar. That's where facebook.com is typed. Now, copy and paste this code into your address bar and hit enter. Note this won't work on Internet Explorer, only Mozilla Firefox and Safari. First time for everything. Cheap shot, I know. Couldn't help myself. People actually copy the horrible-looking, nasty, malicious JavaScript from the web page and run it. This virus writer was too lazy to write an automatic infection mechanism, so he asked people nicely if they would run it, and people did. What is wrong with the world? Isn't that staggering? So we look at this example objectively in this audience here and think, that is ridiculous. No one would ever click on that. But thousands of people did before Facebook pulled it down. Now, stage 5. Once you've done that, your friends in the box should turn blue. If you're wondering why they turn blue, it's because you just screwed them by sending them a virus. They won't be your friends for long. 6. Visit our official site and follow these instructions. Now, this is great. You know, we started this mission hoping for $25 of free coffee, but we're told by this Starbucks page that we are just minutes away from being complete. Social media is very powerful. So we get to give away our name and our personal information in addition to access to our computer. But don't worry, there's zero fraud tolerance. Okay? This particular hacking gang isn't going to go sharing your details with other hacking gangs. Okay? They're going to rip you off on a one-to-one basis. It's a personal transaction. And there's a little padlock. So as we know, padlocks mean things are safe. It's not like you can just put a picture of a padlock on any website to pretend that it's okay, right? That would never happen. So an astonishing example of social engineering. It's really, really quite easy. Now, I want to show you a few live malware demonstrations. So I'm just going to switch over here and wake up my client. Ooh, Sony PlayStation. We'll have fun with that in a bit. Okay. I love the way someone did a sinister laugh there. That was very good. You could work in the movie theater. So what I've got here is an email, and I've got a corresponding attacking computer, okay, sitting ready and waiting. Now, this first example is astonishingly successful. You see, it's so successful as a social engineering concept, I have actually written this onto CDs and thrown it into the bush in a car park and watched people get out of their cars, go up and go, Bush CD, ooh, interesting title, and go inside and run it, okay? Which defies all common sense in any way, shape, and form. So, this first title, Company Salary Packages 2011. Okay, so the idea is we've been sent a set of information about salaries of other people in the company. So that's really tempting stuff. People want to click on it. So we open it up, and Adobe launches, running a nice out-of-date piece of Adobe software, like many, many people, and it crashes, which, let's be honest, happens pretty frequently. Now, if we move over to our attacking system, on the right here, I've got my command and control interface. And what's going to happen is this exploit is going to run, crash Adobe in a very selective way, and then install some malicious code without the user knowing. Okay? So without seeing anything on the screen, I'm going to give away access to my computer. And in a minute, I will get a command prompt for that computer appearing on the right-hand side. Now, whilst that happens, is there anyone here that reads PDF? You know PDF files? Can anyone read them, like, natively without Adobe PDF Reader? No? That happened once. It was amazing. It was great. There was this guy from Adobe, and he was sitting at the back of the room, and I brought him up on stage, and got a flip chart out, and he could actually draw PDFs with his mind. What a superpower. Just imagine the useful application of that skill. Okay, I haven't got anything, but, Anyway, so I had a go at this, and we drew this thing out, and we turned around to the audience after 3 or 4 minutes of distraction. And can you all do this face for me? That's the best description available, okay? And I, of course, assumed it's because the audience was aghast with our mathematical prowess. I think in reality they were thinking those guys are never getting laid ever. Anyway, so on the right-hand side here, we've now got this command prompt that's turned up, okay? So I, as the attacker, can start browsing around the computer. I can look at the medical database, the very confidential documents.rtf, whilst the user sits there with no knowledge that anything has gone wrong. They may continue installing applications or browsing the internet, whatever they were doing before. So let's do something interesting with this, like the bad guys would. What I'm going to do is install some fake antivirus, if I can type. There we go. So this fake antivirus is incredibly popular. Here we go. The Microsoft Security Center's popped up, something we'll all recognize, telling us we've got an unregistered version of Antivirus Plus, which of course none of us have heard of because it's entirely made up. It's a virus pretending to be an antivirus product to distract us into giving away our credit card information. And look at this, even better, it's a virus pretending to be antivirus software telling us we've got viruses. But it gets really silly now. They've got this list of things that they're doing on the computer. Your logins and passwords being stolen, your credit card, your IP being used by hackers. Well, this is actually very honest of them, because it's exactly what they're doing to us right now. So it's nice that they've told us. So you imagine what happens in this scenario. The user goes, I remember about viruses and malware and what that crazy ginger guy said, and how my computer would connect to my fridge wirelessly and sour my milk and scare my cat at 2 in the morning. And all right, they get the details a bit wrong, but they basically know viruses are bad. So they click on Remove Malicious Software to be confronted with this warning screen demanding that they register in order to continue using the product. Now, this is pretty strange for me because having your data stolen used to be free. Running a virus used to be free. Now people actually pay for the privilege of having their data stolen. People pay the bad guys to rip them off, which is an astonishing business model if you think about it. But it's okay, they've got evaluations. You can run an evaluation for 30 days to see if you like having your data stolen. If it's a service that you'd like to continue receiving on an ongoing basis, then you can pay for it. And if not, then you'll get it anyway, but it'll be cheaper. So quite astonishing stuff, this fake antivirus. And if we just close this down, and we can actually have a look at the product interface here, really looks a lot like an antivirus product. It's got settings and things that you can manipulate, advanced detection. I love that one. I have no idea what it means. It's exactly the kind of thing that would be in an antivirus product. So let's take a look at a more sinister example here that I find pretty scary. What I'm going to do is create a new little Word document here. We'll use a rich text. Okay, and we just put some writing in here. It's pretty random. There we go. Okay, so we just close that random content down. No subtle message there at all. Okay, I'm going to show you another social engineering example here that's been very popular. This is an email written by the cybercriminals pretending to be from the IT help desk. Great idea, because lots of us trust the IT help desk implicitly. And it's asking the user to please run this patch, because there's a serious threat out there that's hell-bent on stealing our data and your information. So it asks the user to go to this link. Now, if you look very closely, you'll note that it's actually us.microshaft.com, which I think is possibly the funniest URL on the internet ever. So if we click on this link and open up this executable to patch the hole and be nice to our IT team, how many of you here have had one of those pop-ups you can't close? You keep pressing close, and they're really annoying, aren't they? Well, this does exactly that. Every time you try and close the thing, it won't go away. Here we go. So let's just move that out of the way. What's really interesting is if we go back to our My Documents folder, we can now see that all of my files have become a ._crypt file. And if I open them up, they're just gobbledygook. It just makes no sense at all. Now, if we read this message, it's very interesting. Attention, your files are encrypted with RSA 1024 algorithm. To recovery, okay, they're not great at English, but to recover your files, you need to buy our decrypting tool. Contact us here. How rude is that? They've encrypted our documents on our own computer with strong encryption we can't break, and we don't have the password. They're making us pay them to get access again to our own data. Imagine your friends and family losing photos of their firstborn child they store on their computer, not with a great backup process. Imagine the desperation that might occur. Imagine your CEO 15 minutes from filing a specific set of accounts online or doing a critical presentation presented with this warning. It's very, very easy to see how the bad guys social engineer people into doing this stuff. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple more live demonstrations and I'll get on to some conclusions. Is anyone bored? Excellent, that's good. All right, who would like to see how Sony lost 100 million plus records? Yes? Oh, I love the big grin. Yes, I'd really like to see that. Okay, so what I've got here, a little bit of a reconstruction of this problem. Now, the interesting thing is, Sony, of course, gets vilified because they've lost all of these records. But this technique is used countless times every single day. We find a new infected website nearly every second, and the majority of them fall victim using very much the same techniques. Sony's a case of being large and therefore losing a large amount of data. There are many, many others who fall into this category. Right, so on this website here, I've got a username and a password box. And I'm going to log in with my username and my password, which is the well-renowned, super secure password. Okay, here we go. So when I log in, I get a little view, it says my username, my password, and my account code. Nothing particularly spectacular, but something that we do countless times every single day. So let me show you how the bad guys extracted all this data. Really quite astonishingly simple. So I'm going to type in a little command here and make sure I can see it on the screen. Okay, tick or 1 = 1. This is a very, very simple technique called SQL injection. Lots of websites today are driven by a database. Most websites, in fact. Most of your business's websites here. And that database can receive instructions from a website to give it data. Now, normally, we'd say, my username is James Lyne, so show me all the records where username equals jlyne. What we've done here is tricked the web application into asking a question it shouldn't. Instead of saying where username equals jlyne, we're saying whether username equals tick, so nothing, or 1 = 1. Do we have any quantum physicists in the audience? No? Do we all agree that 1 = 1? Yes? 2 = 2? I mean, there is a long proof. It takes quite a lot of arguing, depending on various conditions. But on this particular case, let's assume that computers think that 1 = 1. Because 1 always equals 1, by the way, if this works, you know what you have to do. Okay? The computer interprets that instruction, and instead of just giving me my records, dumps the records of every other user that exists on the system, showing me all of their usernames and passwords too. That's an R moment, I think. Ah, that's a very soft R. I like that. I love the way you're kind of sitting, you're right in front of me, so you're obviously nervous that I will bully you if you don't do it. Whereas people on the sides feel very safe. But let me assure you, if your mobile phone Wi-Fi is on, you're not safe. Well, actually, hopefully you are, because you've patched your phones and done all those sensible things. So that's exactly how all this data went missing. All right, let's talk a little bit about mobile phones. That's an appropriate topic of discussion. Everyone's got mobile devices these days, and the interesting thing is we all think that security is a PC problem, but it really is now about more than Microsoft. By the way, I have absolutely no idea why that picture is there. It's just really cool, so I thought I'd put it in. So, any iPhone users? Yeah? A few iPhone users, pretty popular. Android users? Yeah? They're always like, yes, I'm an Android user. I am cool. Okay. Any Windows Phone 7 users? Yep. You are the one, aren't you? Yes. Globally. Have you got it with you? Wow. That's amazing. I'm impressed. So, any BlackBerry users? Yes, that's the first picture that comes up when you Google it. It's, you get the idea. Nokia? Weird. Have you got a Nokia? Can I see it? Can I touch it?
It's a special.
Oh, that's amazing. Sir, would you stand up and take a bow? That is retro. Round of applause. Come on. Love it. Retro is a way of saying old and rubbish, but, Can you get on the internet on that now? No. It's very secure, though. I like it. Fantastic touch. So, mobile devices, all right? We've all got them, lots of different platforms. Security is about more than just Microsoft for the first time in a while. The thing is, it's not all just about kind of viruses and the conventional PC threats. There are all kinds of new security concerns we need to worry about, like location technology. Again, a fascinating difference between real life and digital life. In the real world, if I said, sir, what's your name and your address, where do you live, you wouldn't tell me, right? I have to rephrase that question slightly because when I did this presentation a week ago, the guy went, yes, my name is this and I live at this address, and then realized what he'd done as he looked around at the 100 angry information security professionals scorning and scowling in their faces. So, if I asked you those questions randomly as a stranger, you wouldn't answer. But most of us are prepared to upload photos and location data constantly online on the web, revealing our location. The problem is, we can see how a credit card can damage us, but we don't see how that location information could have an impact on our lives. This is one of my favorite websites, pleaserobme.com. I love the logo, it's amazing. This thing takes location information from lots of different social media sources. And it's really amazing. These tools out there now will take all this data and figure out where you live and where you work. Then, when you go on holiday, or you go away on a work trip, it publishes your address open on the website saying, please rob me, my house is empty. Astonishing use of information that we really don't see as that scary. Okay, so I'm going to need, which was the closest Mac user? Does anyone here know how to use an iPad? Yes, they're very intuitive. Yeah? Any iPad users? Sir, would you be able to help? You're kind of sitting there going, I really don't want to, which means I'm definitely going to pick on you. Okay, I'm going to give you the iPad. If you'd like to come up to the stage and give me a hand. Round of applause for my willing victim. Don't worry, you don't have to wear a sequin ball gown this time. Okay, so first things first, we need to activate the iPad. So if you could just bow to the iPad, give it a little bow. Fantastic. Okay, there we go. I'm going to give that to you. I'll give you some instructions in just 1 second. I'm just going to set up the screen behind here. So I'm going to show you a couple of security issues that exist for these kinds of mobile devices. And I'm not picking on the iPad in particular. It's just that it's one of the ones that people tend to think is safer by definition. Now, the first thing I'm going to show you is an issue that affects lots of different devices, probably many people in this room. Then I'm going to show you something a little more targeted and a flavor of where mobile device security is going in the future. What I've done here is I've set up my computer as a nasty hotspot. I've used tools that are readily available, video guides online, and nice user interfaces to create this. It's really trivial, and there are people all over the place setting these things up. And what this nasty hotspot does is it provides connectivity for my iPad. Now, something you might not know, whenever you connect your mobile device to a wireless network, like your home wireless network, maybe it's called Minky 48 or People choose cute names for their wireless networks. I found one gentleman who used his address last week. Thought that was very good. When you connect to one of these wireless networks, when you go somewhere else, if I go to another country, my mobile phone isn't just looking for those wireless networks, it's sending out packets, broadcasting, trying to find it. So it's really easy for the bad guys to pick those packets up and figure out what wireless networks I would instantly connect to. So what I've done is followed that exact guide here, and I've created a wireless network that looks exactly like your normal iPad. And hopefully, you should have a little wireless signal in there. Fantastic, we're connected. So first things first, what I'd like you to do is check my email. It's in the bottom left-hand corner. The mail app should already be set up. Okay? And if you just, in the bottom left-hand corner, there should be a little refresh thing. Connectivity's a bit rubbish. There you go, just hit that a couple of times. Ah, there we go, fantastic. What's happened here is this mobile device isn't configured to use appropriate encryption when it's accessing online services. Lots and lots of users end up in this configuration by default. So this device, which is connected to my nasty wireless network that could look like Starbucks free Wi-Fi or BT Open Zone, we all use them, has actually captured my username and my password for my Gmail account, jimbolino@gmail.com, and the password wizardsrobe6453, which I think we can all agree was the best password on the internet, up until this presentation anyway. Of course, it's rubbish now. So really, really easy to steal credentials from devices if they're not configured correctly. Now, let's do something a little more fun. I've emailed this iPad a PDF vulnerability, just like a PDF exploit, just like I did with my PC right at the beginning. And I've caused this device to be jailbroken without the user's consent or knowledge. Jailbreaking is actually something that lots and lots of users do of their own volition. It removes lots of the pesky security restrictions that Apple put in place. So lots and lots of users choose to do it. The problem is, once you've done that, you break Apple's security model. You don't get any more updates. And the default username and password for the device become root and alpine. Well documented on the internet, lots of people scanning, trying to find them. So you could be logging in with your PIN code, but there's a back door which you can access through the wireless network with that default username and password to get to everything. So what I'd like you to do, it's a bit strange at an information security conference, I'd like you to violate someone's privacy. Very specifically, though. What I need you to do is just use the camera app on the desktop there and find a striking member of the audience that everyone will recognize who's not scared of having their photo taken, and just take a really nice photo of them. You can get a bit closer if you want and zoom in. I knew who was going to choose you. I said, just kind of do this, just pose and ready. I'm putting this on Facebook later, so, you know. Okay. Right, what I'm going to do, over here, I've got my connection to the iPad. Now, I can access everything on this iPad. I can access the address book, I can access the browser history, anything, okay? Just like I would on a normal Linux system. And what I can see here is in this particular directory, there's a new photo that's appeared, image_0066. Now, if this works, and this is the bit that goes horribly wrong sometimes, if this works, I definitely think it's going to be worthy of an ooh, no, ah, thank you, okay? So get ready for this. In theory, I should be able to trivially, using that default username and password and standard tools, take a copy of the photo, and oh, look at that. Ah. By the way, Apple really needs some new camera technology. That is shocking, isn't it? Absolutely awful. But I think you can make him out. So thank you very much to my willing victim. Thank you. Okay, so let me start to draw to a close here. So I've shown a few different attack vectors, a few different things happening. What we can be sure of is the fact that the bad guys are getting much more professional, and they're going where the data lies. I showed you a couple of brief security issues for the iPad. The same would apply to the iPhone, and there are variants for all of the other platforms as well. It's critical with these new devices that we do the basics. Simple things like having a secure, non-default password. I know we love to rant about it, but it's still one of the biggest causes of data breaches. We need to be cautious of those funny security warnings that pop up and warn us that perhaps someone is listening to our communications. Patching. There's a real danger with mobile devices that we regress over all of the good work we've done in years previous. Where people have got used to patching their devices in the PC world, they're not doing the same with tablets and with mobiles. There's a perception from users that they're eminently secure, and the reality is quite different. If we fail to patch, if we fail to turn on SSL and encryption, if we jailbreak our devices, the equivalent of sabotaging our PC to disable all future updates, we could be in real trouble. But these activities I've described are very, very common. So here's what I want from you. I want you all to be a little bit suspicious. If someone offers you that Rolex or perhaps $25 of free coffee, I want you to be a little bit suspicious. Not too much, but a little bit suspicious. I want you all to start to assume that mobiles are computers too. Over the next 12 to 18 months, we're going to see much more of the kind of stuff I've been showing here, and we need to be ready to defeat it. This is a Q code for anyone that's got a QR code reader on their mobile phone. You can take a photo of that, and it will take you to sophos.com, where there is a tool pack that has sample mobile security policy, configuration guides, videos, PowerPoints, resources you can use to educate people in your businesses. They're free. Please redistribute them. Delete our logo, put yours on, and plagiarize them. The license actually says you can do that. It's brilliant. I've never seen a license that says plagiarize in a positive sense before. Please take this stuff and use it. Also very easy to find from sophos.com if you don't have a QR code reader. It's called the Mobile Security Toolkit. Let's wrap social media and mobile into our education. We all now talk to our staff about cybersecurity to some degree. We all talk to our friends and family about viruses. Let's make sure we're not missing these new topics, so there's a big lag between the bad guys changing tack and them coming after us. Because after all, the majority of those nasty pieces of malware aren't high-end clever things. They're actually attacking people who aren't doing the basics. If you need more information, please go online, download the Security Threat Report. It's got pictures of kittens in it all the way through. They're brilliant. The one that's kind of peeking over the iPad is awesome. You can visit our experts, talk to our local team. That's actually where I work. We have a moat all the way around the building. Well, there's a bit where we've got 6 foot thick, military reinforced. There are sharks as well. Okay, I made the sharks bit up, but it's great. And you can follow our naked security blogs online as well. This is me, if you want to get hold of me and ask me questions, flame me or otherwise. There are some questions that can't be answered by Google. And at the bottom here, you will find a health and safety warning for the presentation that you've just watched. It binds you contractually to configure all of your mobile devices and social media profiles securely. Please do pick up the resources from the Sophos stand, talk to the guys like Sans, who've got excellent material on the security awareness side to help build profile in your organizations. And please do go to sophos.com and download those resources as well. I hope this has been entertaining and useful, and I look forward to spending the rest of the day with you. Thank you very much.